Cyberpunk 2077 has hundreds of hours of content. Its main storyline can probably be completed in about 20 to 30 hours, but much like The Witcher 3 before it, a huge place where this game shines is in the vast number of side jobs which we can also complete along the way. Some of these can tie back into future main quests, whilst others are simply standalone pieces of excellent writing. So let's take a look at 5 of the best side jobs in the game, go over how to unlock them, tips for the best outcomes, as well as what otherwise makes them great. As always, huge shout out to my patrons for going the extra mile to support my work. And now, let's get to it. Starting things off is a side quest which a great many of you, including me on my first run, didn't actually get to experience. Heroes involves hosting an Ofrienda to commemorate Jackie not too far into Act 2. Of course, this can only be accessed should you choose, when prompted by Delamain, to send Jackie's body to Mama Wells or remain outside and wait for you, in which case he'll also wind up there. Sending him to Misty will result in him being taken by Arasaka and becoming a very, very poorly copied engram. Ironically, this will also give Misty less of a proper chance to say goodbye. Comparing the two options also opened my eyes to the profound fact of life that a person is more than just their mind and body, and seeing all the people Jackie was closest with in life say kind words about him is way more fulfilling than trying to communicate with a poor AI channeling echoes of Jackie's personality. So provided you don't send Jackie to Victor's clinic, you'll start Heroes after you give Mama Wells a call. Head over to El Coyote Coyo in the Glen and Mama Wells will ask us to find something from Jackie's garage to bring to the Ofrienda. Outside waiting though, we can find Misty, and I think this is probably the time we actually get to know her best, as more than just mystical tarot crystal girl and actually Jackie's girlfriend. We get a ton of expositional backstory here, and it's really nice for both us as players and V themselves to learn a whole bunch more not just about our deceased best friend, but Misty too. Indeed, most of the things in here can be scanned and actually have a story to them, but it's when we head into the back room and this same music that plays in the cab starts up again that you really get a gut punch to the feels. Just warning you now, there's going to be some major appreciation for the writing and atmospheres throughout this video. Anyway, going through all the things, we can learn a bit about each of them and actually pick each one up to take over to the Ofrienda, but you will still have to choose just one to place on the table, ultimately. We then get to hear speeches from people Jackie was closest to, including Victor, before also making our own. We get a fair amount of control over what we can say here, and given our introduction to Jackie is totally different depending on our life path, that heavily comes into play as well. Now, this quest is also our opportunity to fix a rift between Mama Wells and Misty. Long story short, Mama Wells has always held one of Jackie's exes as her favourites, and it's only through us stepping in and speaking up on Misty's behalf that the two can start to form a closer bond. Speaking to Misty in her shop sometime later, we learn that Mama Wells now keeps sending her roasts despite the fact she's not even a meat eater, and essentially she's trying to kind of adopt her as a new surrogate daughter to quell the pain of Jackie's death somewhat. Healthy thing to do? Who knows? Probably. Back to the Ofrienda though, the final part involves going around and having a small conversation with all the attendees, drinking to Jackie's memory and generally remembering good times. It's definitely one of the most wholesome side jobs in the game, and way better than finding the abomination of ChatGPT Jackie trapped inside Mikoshi, who, to be honest, would probably be terrible at writing emails and cover letters anyway. Make sure to come back to the memorial sometime later as well to receive Jackie's iconic pistols, La Chingona Dorada. Anyway, see you in the Major Leagues, Tune. I really like the Aldecaldo questline overall. There's some great jobs here which all stand out as unique and memorable, with our growing friendship/relationship with Panam being a core component, of course. But there's also the cool stuff we get to do, and other characters we get to know as well. The Aldecaldos may very well be my favourite ending, but as far as their side jobs go, my favourite one of those on the whole has got to be Riders on the Storm. It's got a little bit of everything: overwhelming odds, space infiltration, and then some more sensitive moments. So a few days after completing life during wartime and capturing Anders Hellman, Panam will call you up asking for help to rescue Saul, who's been captured by wraiths. And to any lovesick male Vs out there, we'll of course head over to the camp immediately, hoping for a chance to build on those flirtatious moments from previous quests. Take note during the drone briefing here, because there's all manner of ways to infiltrate and navigate this wraith camp. A more leveled character might want to test their build by blasting in through the front door, and there's nothing to say you can't do that. Sure, it'll probably be your toughest fight yet, but if you're up for the challenge, then fair play. Here's a hidden tip though for any players with above 9 technical ability. Heading round to the right, we can actually break in and out via the service tunnel without crossing a living soul, apart from, well, Saul. A very quick and easy method for those who value story and not so much action, and the cleanness of such a method is kind of fun. Personally though, I prefer to be a little more creative, stealthily taking out as many of these guys as I can with Short Circuit and a silenced overture before rescuing Saul and destroying the entire camp for all the screwed up stuff they've done. What's more, doing it this way gets us a lot of levels, loot, and most importantly, the Problem Solver SMG, which can be looted from this boss. It's the fastest firing gun in the game and can be modded to become even more crazy. Check out these videos for more detail on that. Anyway, if you've done this without killing anyone, we'll drive straight to this building, but if you were a little louder, it will trigger a rare instance of vehicle combat, which I don't know about you, but I find to be one of the most difficult aiming experiences in the whole game. The real best part of this job though is being holed up with Panam during the sandstorm. The flirtatious tension throughout this mission is crazy and comes to its peak when Saul heads off to sleep.
Huh. Do you know what they call these storms in North Africa? Haboobs. Damn, I love that word.
Whoa, what was that about?
The atmospheric music, cozy sheltering from the storm style vibe, and the playful dialogue here is just the perfect setting for CDPR to flex their writing skills. And say what you will about V's hotel clerk accent, it's a nice side to our character that we rarely get to see.
Ma'am, I'm sure you'd be cozier with your shoes off.
After a full day in them, I'd fear a health code violation.
Nonsense. After a day as full as today, you deserve to kick back.
It's these moments that make us feel connected to V as a living, breathing human rather than just an action hero merc. Bethesda could probably learn a thing or 10 here about how to do a voiced protagonist.
V... No. It's really nice as is. Let's not spoil it, okay?
The game leads you to think things are going well, only to make you feel like an utter idiot when you overshoot your shot and miss. Kudos to Panam though for shutting this down in the least awkward way possible. And the following day, provided you're a male V, we finally do learn where we stand.
About last night.
We don't need to talk about that. I'm just not like that.
So what are you like?
More like this. Take care of yourself.
You too, Panam.
And I gotta say, dragging a romance arc out like this across several missions with a slow, gradual development feels a lot more natural and real than what you get in many other games, with even Mass Effect feeling a bit more predictably regimented in its romantic developments at times. Just a shame that if you're a female V, that lean on bike option isn't even available. There weren't any differences in the build-up, but I don't know, maybe female V just has an intuition? Well, luckily Judy is there to pick up the pieces of V's failed attempts here. Which brings me on to Pyramid Song, probably my favourite quest from Judy's storyline, and definitely a standout for the game overall. Now, underwater levels can suck if done wrong, and whilst this doesn't pretend to be any kind of Subnautica, it's definitely one of the more interesting side jobs that we can play. We get a uniquely presented window into Judy's past here, as the two of us become neurally synced and are able to hear each other's thoughts. We can hear her memories, and at one point she actually gets to hear Johnny inside our head. To unlock this one though, you'll have to meet a few conditions first. Well, one condition, really. During the Pisces quest beforehand, you can either side with Maiko or not, that doesn't really matter, but if you do side with her, do not accept any money. Follow that one rule and you should be all good. Now, much like Queen of the Highway, this is a good quest whichever type of V you're playing, but all the romance options which are exclusive to female V are definitely the driving heart of this quest here. And to be honest, I'd say I probably prefer Pyramid Song as a female V to Queen of the Highway as male V. The writing for Judy's romance just builds a lot more subtly and naturally overall. It's more of an unspoken thing until the moment where it isn't, and we have a lot longer to build a friendship with Judy first, so by the time this quest comes around, we've already seen tons of character development on her part, and this all just works. As far as the underwater stuff goes, CDPR rightfully don't try to do too much here. It's basically a scan what you see in terms of raw gameplay, but again, it's cool to see into Judy's past. A well-timed relic malfunction then makes the diving aspect last just just long enough to not get boring. After that, you'll get the romance options as a female, and the following day be able to make it an official relationship or not. She'll explain she was planning to leave Night City, but now she's gonna stay, simply for you. As a male V, she will simply leave, and you'll remain long-distance friends. To be honest, much as I like the fresh perspective that the underwater part of the job gives us, it's mostly the well-written, subtle romance of this one that affords it an entry in this video. We can even have a few more conversations back at Judy's apartments, which we can now share and also sleep at if we so wish. Then of course, depending on which ending you choose, things can go even further. But on the whole, far as side jobs go, this is definitely one of the best written and most memorable, depending largely on your body and voice type. Speaking of Judy though, did you actually know it was her who passed our details onto Elizabeth Peralez and kicked off that whole side quest line? You can find the email correspondence on a computer during their second quest, Dream On. It's just as well she recommended us for the first job then, because Dream On is without a shadow of a doubt one of the most existentially terrifying and mysterious quests in the whole game. We'll get a call from Elizabeth to meet at their apartment, where Jefferson tells us about an altercation he had with an intruder in the middle of the night. He apparently shot them, only to pass out and wake up in bed the next morning with no sign of any break-in or shooting ever having happened. He's hopeful we can find out more. By this point, you'll have already completed I Fought the Law and solved Lucius Rhine's murder, so with introductions already out the way, we get to jump straight into the mystery here. It soon becomes apparent that the future mayor and his wife's seemingly idyllic lifestyle in what is no doubt the game's nicest apartment is in actual fact far from what it seems. I love the sheer number of clues we can scan here and terminals we can read, with every single one adding a small piece of context. The Peralezes have a daughter who's studying in Europe and is therefore completely away from all of this, and there was also an incident where Jefferson fired someone only to forget it shortly after and get them back. Oh, and there's this random civilian sitting on a sun lounger on the roof. No idea what that's about. I assume it's a bug, but who knows? Maybe someone got lucky and won a luxury afternoon at the Peralez apartments. Anyway, as we dig deeper, specifically into the equipment of SSI, their security detail, things start to get super weird. There's a whole bunch of code words here for different groups of people, with Jefferson being referred to as Alpha and different security agents being designated by colors orange, blue, and black. We then discover an entire hidden room in the middle of the upper floor, and it becomes undeniable that this is no ordinary security detail. Some totally unknown tech is beaming information via satellite dish to a signal tower nearby, all of which is getting stored in this van, which we then locate and chase down. Now that I see it, actually, it kind of reminds me of the spy vans from The Simpsons Hit and Run. Anyway, hacking this then, we learn that the Peralezes aren't just being spied on, they're literally having their memories rewritten. All of this is confirmed by Elizabeth when we meet her shortly after, and she explains how recently Jefferson's behavior has been changing overnight. Everything from music tastes to forgetting he ever had a brother. Disturbing stuff indeed. Finally then, we're left with a decision. Do we come clean to Jefferson, tell him he's being controlled by some Illuminati-like entity which he can't possibly defeat, or do we downplay, say it was probably just a political rival who staged the break-in, and let him continue his day-to-day life? It's a tough one, honestly. Know the truth but develop crippling paranoia, or remain blissfully ignorant as he slowly loses his identity. Johnny sums it up pretty well.
He's fucked, V.
Now, this quest obviously merely scratches the surface of something way deeper, which is gonna need a full video to go into. But the main thing we know is that it involves Mr. Blue Eyes from one of the endings, and there's also a Gary the Prophet mission where we investigate a shady deal, which I expect has something to do with the same outfit. And Johnny even theorizes that whatever this group is, it's actually headed up by AI rather than humans, suggesting that AI is controlling the world whilst maintaining the total illusion that it's still run by humanity. Hopefully something which gets explored more in Phantom Liberty. After all, the ghost of freedom is a key theme to this quest, but if not, then maybe we'll have to wait for Cyberpunk Orion. Either way, for now, this is CDPR's way of dipping our toe in the water with this disturbing part of cyberpunk lore. My final of the top 5 then is Blistering Love. Not a majorly eventful or long quest by any means, but one with a great premise and one of the best pieces of soundtrack in the entire game. Seriously, this is the sort of thing I sleep to, and it kinda reminds me of the Interstellar soundtrack. But a good piece of music can be amplified tenfold when paired with the perfect scene, and our drive-in movie date with Rogue during this quest is said perfect scene. This is unlocked right after completing the more eventful Chippin' In, and a top tip for this one is is to arrive at the date in Johnny's Porsche. Fast traveling direct to the afterlife, you won't get a chance to pick a vehicle, so just make sure the last one you summoned was the 911 Turbo. If you do this, Rogue will comment and reminisce on it, which is a nice touch, and then we'll drive to a classic outdoor movie theater. Unfortunately, 50 years have passed since Rogue first wanted to go there, and the place has closed down. But that's not going to stop us. Breaking in and heading to the projector room, this terminal has a few little Easter eggs for well-known franchises. To anyone who figures out what the likes of Nightmare on Jig Street or A Song of Ice and Chrome are in reference to, well done. You know more than Jon Snow.
I drink, and I know things.
Anyway, getting the projector working and handing the keys to Johnny, he and Rogue will get some one-on-one time whilst watching Bushido 10. And despite the title being a play on the Fast and Furious franchise, I can't help but think of Wolverine when watching this scene. Back to Rogue though, we can reminisce about the past for a second before Johnny literally says the corniest line in the corniest setting.
But all we got's this one night.
It's more than I ever could have asked for.
Really shouldn't work, but I don't know, the music, the atmosphere, the genuinely justified context actually comes together to make this whole cliche pretty good. And that's what I love about this whole thing. Johnny Silverhand, against all odds, has managed to return from the dead, and this is one of the first shows of the guy actually wanting to right his wrongs. Sure, his memories are utterly screwed. He thinks this whole operation was his idea back in the day when it was Rogue who originally suggested it, but even still, the Gonk's heart is in the right place. And I guess from Rogue's perspective, she's finally able to tick off something from her bucket list, which seemed no longer possible 50 years prior. I actually quite like the fact that this doesn't devolve into another full romance scene. It maintains Rogue's strength of character and brings things back to reality. The whole teenagers in love dynamic adds to the working cliche initially, but it's only at this moment that we snap back to the reality of what this really is. A dead man in a borrowed body reuniting with an old flame who must be, what, I guess mid-80s now when you really think about it, making this whole thing a little bit more weird. Anyway, nice chill quest, decent character building, all to the backdrop of a cliche that works, and a killer piece of soundtrack. But comment below your favourite side job in the game and why, because God knows there are a ton more gems of brilliance here, and these are just 5 of my absolute favourite ones. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'll probably do a part 2, so, you know, leave likes and all that if that's something you want to see. Again, massive shout out to the Patreon supporters who are crucial to keeping this channel alive. To anyone else interested, you can donate from as little as £1 a month for your name in each video, early access to content, and more features to come very soon. Thanks so much again for watching. I'm Sam Brown. You guys really are awesome, and I'll see you soon in another video.